The opinions shared on Teal Time with Hope reflect those of the host and guests. Unless there's an expert in their field joining us, this podcast is for education and support only and does not replace medical or mental health advice. Please always consult a licensed professional for your personal care.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Till Time with Hope. I am the host, Hope, and I hope everyone is doing well. Well, I'm happy to say that I have finally got another guest for this show, and she has been more than helpful with giving me some of her time. And without further ado, welcome to the show, Jennifer. If you wouldn't mind, just give a little introduction to who you are, and we'll go from there.
Course, thanks for having me. My name is Jennifer McClendon, and I work with the National Ovarian Cancer Coalition. So blessed to work there. I've been there about 5 years now. In my previous career, I was in breast cancer for 22 years and really enjoyed doing patient education. And I was fortunate enough 5 years ago to come over and work now with ovarian cancer survivors and their families. And it's such a privilege and an honor at the end of each day. I am our senior program manager for our education and programs and mission programs. I get to serve and create programs and resources for cancer patients and their families. It's very rewarding, so I love it.
That's wonderful. And just to let the audience know, we actually met back in September at the National Ovarian Cancer Coalition. What was it called? I
Together
forget
in
now.
Teal.
Yes, the Together in Teal event. And
Mhm.
it was such an incredible atmosphere. And we got to chit chat. And as busy
Yes.
as she was, she allowed me to like converse with her and kind of just talk a little bit about, the survivorship that I've gone under, if whatever way we want to call it,
Yeah.
and the thriving and surviving and all of that jazz. And she mentioned, I actually talked to her initially because I wanted her to be a guest on Till Time with Hope. And then she ends up,
Inviting you to come on and share your story, which we did, 2 weeks ago? And it was just amazing. So thank you for that.
oh, no. The thank you is to you. By amazingly, I was able to just meet you, number one, because I find you very cool, very
You as
fascinating.
well.
And our lives kind of are really cool, and we'll talk
They
about that at the
are.
end, how we kind of have some cool parallel of life, kind of like vision board
Circumstances,
goals.
challenges,
Yeah,
experiences. Yep.
just so much we have in
We
connection,
do.
like
And we happen to be in the same city.
we are, and you're not too far from me. You actually live in a city that I went to 1 year in high school, in fact.
Ah,
Yeah, I went there my junior year.
sure.
Um, but life's funny like that, Jennifer,
It
and I
is.
really enjoyed meeting you, and then,
Mhm.
everybody gets so busy. That was in September, and I was like, "Well, maybe I'll hear from them, and if not, that's fine. I'll go bug them next year or something like that." And then she ends up messaging me, and I'm like, "Yes, let's do it. I'll be a guest on your podcast. Maybe you could be a guest on mine." And so here
And
we
here we
are.
are.
No quid pro quo, I promise. Hey, Jennifer, you giving that information at the beginning just now about how at first you were over at breast cancer awareness,
Mhm,
and then you moved over to ovarian
mhm.
cancer. How wonderful. First of all, thank you for working with those in the breast cancer field.
Yeah.
And now you're with ovarian cancer. And I just
Mm.
wanted to know, like, what was the driving force that got you to want to go over into the ovarian cancer field?
Well, the story's pretty simple. We had layoffs. So we actually, but there is more of a story coming to that, or
Sure.
that's gonna show the impact of this. So it's all worked out for the better, because so in 2020, when the world changed, a
Mhm.
lot changed. And so my job at my previous employer, breast cancer, came to an end, which was, okay, I had been there 21 years or so, had done what I needed to do, and gotten a lot of experience. And so fortunate to have some colleagues over at the National Ovarian Cancer Coalition who reached out and had known my work and were really excited to talk to me and figure out how we could elevate the National Ovarian Cancer Coalition's programs and services with the experience that I had over at Susan G. Komen. And so it was just a natural fit. So luckily, well, I would say I was blessed where I was picked up and brought in, and it was amazing. It just worked out how it was supposed to. But coming over to ovarian cancer was so different in itself from breast cancers. A lot of similarities, but a lot of differences as well. So with breast cancer, the survival rates and things have improved so much. But with ovarian cancer, it was such an eye-opening experience to me to realize that recurrences happened a lot more and that it was really more of a chronic disease for a lot of individuals, which I was not as used to over in breast cancer. So that was one of the major differences that I learned. But ironically, 2 years into my time at NOCC here, my mom was actually diagnosed with two cancers, one of those being ovarian cancer. And, ovarian cancer is rare. It's fairly rare, about 1% of the population. So it was very ironic that she would have gotten such a rare disease diagnosis. And here I am working for the National Ovarian Cancer Coalition. It was so overwhelming. It was almost too much to take in, like, wow, this is really happening, really. And I was still learning about ovarian cancer at the time. I mean, there's a lot of information. So I was still absorbing 2 years in, still absorbing a lot and getting a handle and getting a grip on everything ovarian cancer. And so then she was diagnosed with that as well as another cancer. So yeah, talk about irony, coming to work here and then having my mom, my best friend, diagnosed.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
And your mother passed away?
Yes, she did. So she was diagnosed in 2022 and passed in 2023. So it was pretty quick. So what happened with her is that she, I don't know if you want me to tell like how we found it or how
No,
that.
please, yes.
Okay, so awareness, exactly, awareness, symptoms and things like that. So like I said, just starting to work for NOCC and realizing, okay, these are the signs and symptoms, it's, a little bit different from other cancers, especially breast cancer, because it is so hard to detect. There are no visual signs. There are no signs that you can really, palpably put your hands on. And so the signs for ovarian cancer are so common, right? To all of the signs and symptoms that we as women experience, like
Right.
bloating, fatigue, all of the things. And so long story short, Hope, my mom was my primary caretaker for my dad who was disabled. And so over time, she had been doing this for about 2 years. He was bedridden. So, you can imagine how much hard work that is. And not only just physical work, but stressful and emotional and mental stress. And over time, mom started to, just become a lot more tired. She became withdrawn, mentally, emotionally withdrawn, and losing weight and just not being herself. And so my sisters and I, there's three of us, chalked it up to just caregiver stress. Why would you think otherwise?
Exactly.
Caregiver stress. And we were going through it too. I mean, my sister and I took turns with my dad to relieve my mom, and it's awful. And so we just thought, okay, she's under caregiver stress. We need to give her some respite. So we tried to give her that. But anyway, unfortunately, as time went on, it got worse and worse. The symptoms became more apparent. She wasn't eating, didn't feel like eating, became very bloated. And again,
May I ask, did you, if real quick,
yeah,
once she started
yeah,
having these symptoms that were too obvious to ignore, did
yes.
it start to, now that you were in the ovarian cancer
You
sphere?
would you would think, but no. And again, I don't know if that was an emotional mental protection in my mind, honestly. It may sound strange. I don't know if I was blocking out the possibility. I don't know if I was thinking, "Oh, my mom can't be sick. My mom wouldn't, that's my mom. She can't be sick. She can't be sick." I didn't even go there. And to this day, I don't blame myself, but it's just showing, I think, the power of the emotional stress that you're under. Sometimes you just cope with what you can cope with at the time. We did end up taking her to a GI physician because she was having stomach issues. Because I just was not even thinking about ovarian cancer. It
Well,
wasn't even entering
I don't
my
think anybody
mind.
would, Jennifer.
Right.
You do kind of, well, number one, going back to
Yeah,
real quick, we women, I do believe this, that we tend to take care of everybody else but ourselves,
absolutely.
right? And I will also say, Jennifer, as a person who went through this disease, I went through denial. I can so see how a
Absolutely.
family loved one, right, would kind of be in denial, like, no, mom's not sick, and there's no way I will want to believe that because it's just, you don't want to think about it. And so I'm glad that you are not putting that blame on yourself because, you're only human and, it makes sense that I don't think I would have either if I was in that circumstances, even with working in that field, you're not going to jump to that conclusion right away.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you saying that. That actually is very validating.
Oh,
So,
yeah, I mean it. Yeah.
but yeah, but it was crazy because the GI doctors just thought maybe, they didn't really think there was much there, and it kind of puzzled me. And so it took a long time for her to actually get a diagnosis and say, hey, we actually need to send you to a surgeon and we need to look at this more closely to an oncologist. And so, long story short, like I said, at the end of everything, we found that she had two bowel perforations. Can you believe it? Can't believe she lived through that. A blockage when they went in for surgery, and they removed a huge tumor. It was like bigger than a cantaloupe. But anyway, she had been diagnosed with, it actually was non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in her abdomen with a secondary cancer of ovarian cancer cells of high grade epithelial. So she had two cancers.
Wow.
The one that they felt was more urgent to treat was the Hodgkin's because it was so advanced. And so that's where we started. So she started treatment for that. But anyway, lots going on behind the scenes with like trying to figure out, okay, how do we take care of mom? How do we take care of dad? It was a
Yeah.
ton. It was
The
fun.
dad is, of course, in the picture as well. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
God bless you and your sisters. I mean, that's a lot to deal with. I personally
Was.
can't imagine what that would be like. And,
Yeah.
people call me strong, but I know what it's like for caregivers. And
Mhm.
I know what it did to my mother. Well, not what it did to her, but how it was, hard on the
Sure.
heart at the end of the day. That's the body gets the exhaustion and things of that nature, but
Yes.
mentally and on the heart, it's a hard one. And you had to
Yeah.
do it twice with your mother as well as your
Right.
father. And she was
Yeah.
the caregiver for your father. So
That's
now,
right. For all of us.
yeah,
Right. Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So I think this just really speaks to the mental and emotional strain that just, can happen. And someone like me who works here at the NOCC knows all the signs and symptoms, knows what to do. But just to show you how powerful that emotional mental strain can be, it doesn't matter.
Honestly, I'm glad you said that because in this, maybe in a naivety kind of way, I'd like to think if you know about it, you'll listen to the body or, if it's us.
Yes.
But even, I think, honestly, I think even if you do know, there's that mental, blockage, if you will,
Yeah.
where you don't want to
We
admit it.
block things out. Yeah.
I didn't know about it, so I can say, "Hey, I didn't know about it," and then it became denial. But I do now know that even if you do know about it, I'm not saying we should stop
Hmm.
awareness. Of course, we should keep that awareness because most people are gonna listen, but there are gonna be people that are not gonna listen because of that fear factor and that denial and all of that, and especially if you're taking care of somebody and you're not wanting that to be the reality,
Yeah.
and so you don't really
Right.
clue
Right.
into those things, and
The coping, yeah, the coping, and that's one of the things that I think we here at NOCC have done really well is supporting survivors and families, and even those who are healthy individuals with just a 360-degree wellness approach. It's not just about the physical, it's about how can we support you mentally and spiritually, practically, financially, all of the things that go into it because you can only cope with certain amounts of things at one time.
kind of goes into what I was going to ask. So, speaking of NOCC, when your mother was diagnosed and you found out that ovarian cancer was one of the two cancers, how did that go with being in the NOCC? I mean, did that help you in knowing like now that you knew it was like okay, well, I
Yeah.
know how to help or I can get help or any of that kind of stuff that you want to share?
Absolutely, yeah. We were able to secure her some meals from our free meal delivery program, which is amazing because, she didn't want to eat, she didn't want to cook. So we had our free meal delivery program and we were able to get her set up with that. It was wonderful. Helped me too, because I was staying with her, taking care of her. And so I got the meals as well, and they were really good. So we have a really great meal
Mm-hmm.
delivery program. Yeah. And of course, knowing the questions to ask and really feeling empowered to go into that appointment or to the nurse's appointment and say, hey, what about this? What about this? And then me, of course, working here, knowing what the treatments were, being able to align that with what the physician was recommending. Now, again, my mom's situation was a little bit trickier because they were treating two different cancers, but yeah, very, very empowering with having that knowledge. Just the questions to ask the doctor, the programs and support. My mom did not take up the support, felt like she didn't need it, but at that time, but she was pretty early, only two treatments in, so before she passed, unfortunately. But we have a lot of great support groups as well that are available to lots of different varieties of ovarian cancer and stages. So,
And for
yeah.
yourself as a caregiver, I would think
Yes.
as well.
Yes. So it's funny you ask because we have a caregiver support group called Teal Cares Network, and I facilitate that group.
Do you
It was a
really?
I do. It was a
Wonderful.
challenge because here I am facilitating a group for caregivers, yet I'm going through the trenches.
Was it during the time that your mother
Yeah.
had been sick?
Yes. So it was tough. But having that group in a way was so helpful at the same time. They embraced me as
Sure.
the facilitator and really came around me and supported me and loved on me. So it was great.
You were in some ways, you were exactly where you needed to be
That's
because
right.
you got that help too, that
That's
love.
right. That's right.
I'm like, that's just I just think about my brain thinks like this. It's like, if imagine if you hadn't have been already in the world of ovarian cancer awareness and you were still over with the wonderful breast cancer awareness organization. Maybe it was kind of destiny in
Mhm.
some weird way that you were where
Yeah.
you were in order to get through everything that you were going to get
Yeah.
through.
Exactly. And I
Maybe.
think not appreciate it more, but really kind of hone in and connect on, what you go through as a patient, as a caregiver, as a loved one, a daughter, know.
Yeah, because
So
you
yeah.
can't just you're not just helping people. How do I say it? You're not just there to support people. You are somebody who's lived it, right? You've
Yeah.
been in that, like you said,
Yeah.
the trenches of. So you
Yes.
can, I think, you can
Yes.
connect with those who have a
I
loved one
think
going through
so.
it.
Yes, I would hope so for
The
sure.
empathy
Yeah.
is way
Yeah.
stronger for somebody who knows what it's like to have a loved one who's going through something like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
I can see
Mhm.
why you would be a great asset in that facilitating that area of
Mhm.
caregivers, so God bless you on that as well.
Oh, thanks.
You are a strong young lady, and I say young because 'cause we're the same age, almo
That's right. We
extra
won't
young.
say how.
Around the same age. We're just, like, in our maybe 30s, just FYI. No, seriously, Jennifer, thank you for sharing that. I also wanted to touch just a little bit before we were doing the recording. We talked about something that you and I didn't know much about because if you want to share what exactly was how your mother passed
Yeah,
away.
sure, sure, yeah, 'cause uh, you know, being fairly new to the NOCC, I had been talking and learning a lot from survivors and their families, and I had heard about blood clots here and there and didn't really connect it to cancer, but not a lot, but a handful of individuals I had talked with over the last few years had actually passed of a blood clot, but they happened to have cancer, and like I said, I didn't connect it. Well, my mom actually, like I said, she had those 2 cancers and was undergoing treatment. She had just finished her 3rd treatment, and she actually passed of a blood clot. Pretty 99% sure because it was sudden. It was sudden. There was one day I was just at lunch, and I was like, she only lived 5 minutes from me. I was like, "Let me just go check on mom. I haven't heard from her all morning. It's so weird." So I go over and I found her. She had passed, and I believe it was quick. I believe it was a quick thing. And hey, I would much rather go quickly. This is just my own personal opinion than drag it out.
Uh,
So she went quick, and her physician and everything afterwards did confirm it was a blood clot. And I did not know that blood clots are associated with tumors, with cancerous tumors. And so thought that was very interesting. And we're not talking about this to scare anyone. It's just
of
something to be
course.
aware of that can happen. And for some reason, some tumors release, I think, substances that can cause complications, such as blood clots. Cancer treatments can also cause blood clots. So it's definitely something to maybe just be aware of, but again, not to scare anyone. And they do take those protocols when you're undergoing treatment for sure to prevent that. But in my mom's case, that's what actually took her life. So
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, I'm sorry that she passed away in that way in the sense
sure,
that you were the one that found her, and
sure.
my heart goes out to you for that.
Thank you.
But secondly, I also wanted to say that you're absolutely all right. I mean, we're not here to, it's like I've said this before, even in awareness, it's not to scare
No,
people,
not
it's
at
to
all.
advocate awareness and educate in the things that could happen. There's a lot of things that can happen when you're going through surgery and treatment and all of that that we may not talk enough about, but it's because it doesn't happen to everybody. Obviously, I went through cancer 3 times, had 2 surgeries, and I never had issues with blood clots. But it doesn't
Hmm.
mean that it doesn't happen. It can happen, and we also just talked about how that actress, what's her name? Miss
Yeah,
O'Hara.
Catherine O'Hara, yes.
Catherine O'Hara.
Yes.
She had an underlining illness, which was rectal cancer, I
Cancer.
believe, and her death was because of a blood clot. And I learned about it that way. Even though I've been
Yeah,
through this 3 times, I never truthfully thought that that was a thing. But here I
exactly.
am
Very
learning, and
interesting. Yeah.
hashtag learning is caring and sharing.
Right.
Thank you so much for sharing that
Yeah,
story.
and I guess I just really wanna reiterate the point that, in my personal story, I don't know how, this is going to relate to others. I'm sure it will to some, but it was just, you know, like you said, being aware of the signs and symptoms, yes, is one thing, but then actually taking action on them is another. And I know that when you get in that room with a physician, you can clam up, you can, feel underestimated or whatever, but really don't take all the information in with you, and don't be afraid to ask questions. So, my mom, like I said, she had all the symptoms staring at me in the face, but yet here I was, a human, Jennifer, a daughter, someone who was scared and denial and trying to cope with everything, covering all that up. But take that information and use it as power. And but yeah, changes in bowel habits, swelling of the abdomen, back pain, fatigue, pain with intercourse, menstrual changes, unexplained weight loss. I mean, all of these things could be something that we're all sitting here with at once as a woman, right? At some
Oh,
point in
yeah,
our life.
absolutely.
And
Menopause,
so
whatever, right?
again, not to list those to scare you, but just to be aware that if those types of things are happening for a little bit of time, usually around 2 weeks or more, if you notice those things continuing, just to really seek medical attention and to talk to your doctor about those. But
No, I love that. It's always important to add that. I don't care if I have 1,000 guests. We're gonna keep adding those symptoms to put into people's heads. Those
yes.
symptoms are important to remember, and because
Yes.
they may not all happen at the same time, they maybe 4 of them will, but at least you know, "Hey, you know what? I remember hearing this person talk about it, and I remember them talking about ask questions. You have a voice, and please don't leave that doctor's office without knowing as much as you can about what your loved one or you are going through."
Right.
And I forget to ask questions. I think I need to use my
Yeah.
smartphone to record stuff, but I digress on that. Jennifer, you also are the host to Teal Talk, right?
Oh,
In
yes.
Teal Talk with NOCC. What, real quick, would you like the audience to know that started it, and what is one of the things that you love about it?
Yeah, so Teal Talk, our ovarian cancer podcast, is once a month. We have random topics. Do go to our audience, our constituents, our survivors, and families for those topics that are of interest. And so each month we have a really fascinating talk with an expert. We started this podcast back in May of 2024, I believe, and it's really, really grown and really kicked off and been very, very popular, which is awesome. I feel like it's a better outlet channel for our organization and reaching people because we can reach through so many various different platforms for our audiences. But yeah, it's been really great. I wanted to be a nurse so bad, in my early
Really?
on college year. Yeah, the cards weren't for me in that career, which is fine, but I'm kind of getting to do the next best thing. And I really love explaining health education topics and medical topics in a lay level and in plain language that people can really understand. And so this kind of gives me the opportunity to do that when we meet with our experts and really just kind of bring down to, okay, like explain this to me as someone who doesn't know all of this medical terminology. Help me understand what this is, why it's important, and what I need to do about it. So I hope that that's how it resonates with individuals and really just being there as a resource, but also something to relate to, whether you're a survivor or caregiver or a loved one.
I've listened to episodes. I've even listened to people that I know as guests on there, like with their medical experience as a doctor or in social work with mental health and things of that sort. And I love it. That one's a video. You usually see people's faces. So when you see me as one of the survivors sharing a little bit about my story, you actually get to see my face. So most people don't get to see that because I'm just an audio podcaster. But brilliant. I love it. And I love NOCC. I love all that they do.
Yeah, knowing the NOCC is here for you. We're here for you in all ways, whether it's through practical help, helping you out financially with meals, financial assistance. We're here for you spiritually through our support groups and connection, survivor connection. We really want to support you as a whole person and that we're here so you're not alone. That's the main thing I want people to know is that they're not alone. There is a way to connect. There's a way to get support. You just need to reach out and call us. 888 ovarian is our number, or ovarian.org is our website, and we're here. And for a caregiver, you can't help anyone until you help yourself. So putting your oxygen mask on first, you have to have your own oxygen before you can pour into others. And so that's something that we talk about in our caregiver support group a lot, and making sure that, sometimes in our caregiver groups, it's all about the person they're taking care of, which is amazing. But I always bring it back to, okay, well, how are you doing? How are you taking care of yourself? Because that is still so important, and it's so easy to get lost or to lose yourself. And so it's a priority of ours. Actually, our mission is to not only make survivors thrive, but caregivers thrive as well. And so we're here for them as well.
That's awesome. And yes, you're absolutely right. We need to remember that it's okay to give yourself a break. And because
Yes.
how can you help the loved one if you are at a place where you just can't, and you need some support there. Thank you for giving me your time, and I look forward to seeing you offline. Jennifer, you have a wonderful
Thank
rest of
you.
your day, and you be safe.
Thanks. You too.
All right, y'all. That's all I got for y'all on this one. This has been Till Time with Hope. I am the host, Hope. God bless. Bye for now.